what you did is you rolled out slabs and started cutting pieces for your play project. You were using whatever template you needed for whatever form you were doing. So this was a large green one. Some of you, if you were doing a plain cylinder, would have used the yellow or the orange. And remember, the circle for that was over there is the correct size for the orange template. And then if you were doing the other one, it was two parts, A and B, and these would end up being attached to each other like this. Okay, something like that. So I'm going to talk about the next step. So first step, obviously, is cutting out your slabs. As a reminder, you'll be rolling out the clay, making it nice and consistently, with consistent thickness and nice and neat. No like major things. Then you're going to put your template down. On top, you would cut it out, holding your needle tool straight up to the side like this, and then cut it out. So that is what you did to cut your template. For your circle, if you were unable to cut it last time into the actual size, because remember, there's only one stencil that had it already done, you're going to be using another slab, and you're going to know what size after you attach this together. So I don't know what size circle I need yet for this one, the green one. So to do this, you're going to want to make sure that your clay is not really damp still. So mine is not. So it's a really good level of dryness for this because it's not just going to flop all over. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to stand it up the way it goes, which is like this if you're doing this one. And let me raise this up a little bit. And you're going to form it and attach it together. And that's going to look like this. So I am going to make this seam touch the other one here. So I'm going to carefully start combining them here. Now, I'm not doing this quickly because if it's too dry, it's just going to snap down the side and you have to restart. So you want to be really slow. If yours is too dry and it starts cracking, we want to try to rehydrate it by covering it in damp towels and then letting it sit for a little bit longer. And if that doesn't work, then you would need to completely restart your slabs. So I'm slowly modifying this form so it's going to be in my vase shape. Okay? So now this seam needs to attach here. You need to scratch it and then slip. Scratching is going to make these surfaces that can actually link together as they're drying. If you have two smooth surfaces, it may feel like it's attached, but that's really kind of just like lightly sticky and like suctioning together, and then when it dries, it's going to come apart. So you need to make sure both sides are rough like Velcro so you can link them so when it dries, they're not going to come apart. Both sides. So to do that, there are forks over on the materials table, a whole basket of them. We're going to use a fork. Don't throw them away when we're done. We'll reuse them. We're going to scratch both surfaces. I'm going to go in all directions, really. You don't want them to be, I'm going to turn this way so you can see it, all in the same direction. So I went vertical. Now I will go the other ways. Don't worry if it's getting some scratches on the edge here. You can clean up later, but don't try to always make it kind of neat. So roughing that up. Then this is also called scoring. So I'm going to score the edges, making that Velcro. After you have scored it well, you're going to apply slip. Slip is just this pasty glue. A few ways people make it. We make it by letting clay dry out and then soaking it in water and rehydrating it, and then it turns into a paste of glue. Right? It's going to be in a big bin over by the materials. There are little plastic cups by the sink. You just take a bit, one per table, share this. Okay? If you would like, you can also take some and put it on a paper towel and just throw the paper towel away at the end of class. So I've made my scored edges. I'm going to stand this back up. I'm going to use my hands to put on slip here. It's the same exact thing that you're doing, it just has more moisture in it. So I know it might feel a little weird because it's paste, but it's nothing different than what you're already working with. Okay, so you're going to get some of this and apply it as if you're applying glue. It's okay if it gets on the sides because, again, it is the same exact material, just a different moisture content. So it will be able to be smoothed out and stuff later. So I am putting some on here, like this. Now, what some people like to do, and I usually do this too, is because I get a little parent, I just do a little more scraping, just because when I put that slip on, I cover up the lines, and I like to see the lines. So now I have two sides that are roughed up and have slipped down both of them. Then, you are slowly and carefully going to push these together, making sure it's meeting where it needs to meet. They should not be overlapping. They need to meet where they need to meet, okay? Not overlapping each other. So you're going to put these here. They're not totally pushed together yet. I'm just trying to line them up as of right now. Okay? Now, this would just totally fall apart. That is not combined. It's getting there, but that was not enough. I need to now use my fingers and tools to like really mesh the clay together to close that gap. And you want this side to actually completely mingle with the other side, not just next to it. So I'm taking my fingers and tools and I am trying to combine these so there's not a seam, and not just filling in the seam with a little clay. Like, you want to actually move it to the sides. Tools that are helpful for this, any kind of wood tool that has some kind of edge that works. Like this is slightly curved, this would be fine. I can use this to push some clay around. This is the big seam of your project and you really want to make sure it can hold up. So I'm using this to scrape that seam together. You're also going to want to neaten it up on the inside the best that you can. So trying to close the seam on the outside first and then the inside. It's okay if it does not look super pretty yet. This is just for structure. I'll show you some ways that you can make it look nice on the surface after. So I'm going to see if I can... Okay. That might be supported right now, but just be careful if your clay is not very firm. This is probably a dangerous move. So now I have a seam that is closed. I'm going to do it on the inside, but with a tool because I can't really maneuver properly. I'm going to try to scrape that together the best I can. If you're really having trouble, what you can do is take a little piece of clay, roll it into a long coil, okay, like this, put it on here, and then mush this around to close the seam if you're struggling to get the inside, but don't let it look really big there. So I got this closed. I'm still not concerned about what it really looks like right now. I need to make the base so I can attach that. I am going to use this little turntable. Let me spin. You are going to get one of these wrapped foam boards. This is a new board that your clay will live on. We are no longer storing things on the white trays. This is what it's going to live on for the rest of this unit. So I have a turntable with foam. I am going to put my other slab down here on top, just for now. The reason I'm using a turntable is because when I set this here, I could see it from one angle and think, oh wow, that's really symmetrical. But then, as I turn it, I might notice, oh wow, it's actually really leaning. So if you spin it, you can just slightly adjust. See how this is pushed together? Now I would need to separate and make sure it is a circle. Okay? So you really want to make sure it looks like a circle when you look down in here. okay, and from all sides. So spin it. When it looks as symmetrical as you think it can get right now, you're good. Then you take your needle tool, and now you're going to trim the base to fit your vessel. So I'm using a needle tool. I'm going to carefully hold it up and down. I feel it grazing the surface of the foam. It's okay if you're slightly off. You can always trim it up a little bit later. It's better to be a little bit bigger than too small. So I'm trimming this. Do not cut into your vase. Be careful. And then after I cut this out, I need to attach it. This is going to be similar to what we just did. Your scraps, you're going to ball up and leave on your tray for the next couple classes. You're responsible to keep this piece of clay nice. This is not going to work. That is going to get dried out way too quickly. You need to really mash this together into a really compacted cube or like sphere or something like that. Okay? And then it just gets stored on your tray like this at the end. If it fits. Okay? So now I have the base. And this is just going to be a quick review before you start working about how to attach. This is actually perfect consistency. I'm going to take this base, scratch along the outside. Don't scratch in here. We do want the inside to be as nice looking as possible, so don't make more of a mess than you have to. So I am going to scratch, scratch, scratch. I'm going to take this, and I'm going to scratch this. Well, the bottom that's going to make contact with that circle. Okay, so I'm scratching really well. There's a hole. I'm going to add slip to these surfaces. Okay, like this. I'm going to add some here. That's my glue. Perfect. Now, back on here, but you want to try to line it up again to match the best you can. If you remember, mine was slightly bigger in some areas, so I'm just going to make sure that I give another quick look to make sure that it is lined up. Okay, so now it is lined up. I'm noticing an area, might be hard to see here, but this area right here has a little divot. If I press this to try to smooth it up and that divot is there, what's going to happen is I'm going to push through and it might collapse. I'm going to use my hand inside the pot and I'm going to push out as I push in from the outside. This is where wood tools can come in handy again to close that seam. You want to make sure that we are attaching this onto the circle the way I showed you and not onto like the sides of the circle. That is another way, but not the way we are doing this. So I'm going to now spend the rest of the time today trying to get this relatively shaped and smoothed out. You don't need to be worrying too much about the surface texture yet. Today is only for getting your structure built. It's going to look a little rough still. And then at the end of class, we are no longer using a white tray or a wood board. We are keeping it on here, on the foam, but put your turntable back on the table. If you have clay, extra clay, you can put it on the side. I'm trying to make some room here. On the side here, you should get some damp paper towels, lightly damp. You don't want to introduce too much moisture in here because it will collapse. We want to firm up a little bit. Just drape it. It does not need to be completely covered. And then you would put your bag going straight over it from the top down, not the side. So top down, and when it goes over to the cart for your labeled shelves, you need to slide a hand underneath, but also be very, very, very careful that you don't knock it over. So I'm going to use one hand to hold the side, one hand is under. I'm going to put it carefully on the car over there and making sure the bag is tucked underneath and held down by the tray. So today your focus is your structure. Take your time. This is a very important step of it so you know it's going to hold up.